Code for Couples. So it's fall, and we have had a couple of pretty chilly mornings here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and it's been really nice. My husband and I were traveling over the last month, and we got to go to Michigan and see his retired chief, and then we went to Colorado at the end of the month, and it was chilly there. It was really nice to wake up and have that sweater weather and wear a sweatshirt, and just kind of, I don't know, I'm just ready for it. I'm ready for fall and changing leaves and pumpkins. And we were talking today and it brought up the whole pumpkin spice latte thing. So this is that time of season where there's pumpkin spice latte again. I think it's kind of funny because people complain. First of all, I am not a pumpkin spice latte girl, I will just tell you that. I do like pumpkin spice coffee. So coffee that has the pumpkin spice is kind of nice, but I am so not a latte girl, because Starbucks stuff is way too sweet for me. But I woke up this morning and somebody was complaining that there's no pumpkin in pumpkin spice latte. And I thought, oh my God, that's because pumpkin spice is spice. So it's all about like the cinnamon and the nutmeg and the allspice and the clove. There's not supposed to be pumpkin in it, Anyway, that's just pet peeve of mine. But it got me thinking that, hey, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad topic for today. And so pumpkin spice in the fall inspired me to talk about how to keep your relationship spicy. So I was going to talk a little bit about how to keep things spicy in your relationship, because, it can be difficult with all kinds of, schedules and not seeing them. You have your schedule, your spouse's schedule, kids' schedules, family schedules, event schedules. So there's all kinds of schedules that are involved. Stress definitely impacts sexual desire. And just kind of like as a side note, I don't know why I was really interested in women and sexuality at one point in time. And I'm like, why don't women have like a Viagra? Like, why is it that men get Viagra and we don't? Like, what the heck is up with that? And so I looked into it, and there was actually some studies. I think I found something on like, what do you call that? Netflix. Yeah, that's it. Found something on Netflix. It was like a documentary. Well, it wasn't like a documentary. It was a documentary. It was a documentary on female sexuality, and they had done a study comparing. They kept trying to find a medication for women to use, and they found this combination. And then they had the control group that just watched some mild porn. So between those women that had the pill that they thought might work for women and getting stimulated visually, there was no difference. So basically what they figured out is like women just need to be stimulated in their minds. And stress is a whole lot of the reason why we don't have sex drive. So that has to do with your partner as well, your first responder partner. If they're stressed on the job, if they're thinking about things, if they had a bad call, if they're stuck on thinking about something that happened on a call, if they're beating themselves up, like all of those stressors, kid stressors, family stressors, relationship stressors, all that stress builds up and it makes it really difficult to connect. So anyway, sidebar, that's why we don't have a female Viagra. There you go. So other stressors, obviously kids are stressors. We love our kids. I don't actually have any, but I love everybody else's kids. The thing is that of course you want to spend time with them, and fingers come underneath doors and things like mom, 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 mom. So you can't get away from them. So the kids are there, and so that makes it difficult to kind of connect and keep up that sexual chemistry. And then outside influences, there's a lot of things, not just schedules, but sometimes extended family or friends that really want to see you or do things with you. So you feel like that pressure to go and connect with them, as opposed to maybe having time for yourself and dedicating time to your own sex life. So here are some solutions for some of that. Like I said, I think you have to keep your mind engaged with sexuality, and in order to be sexual with your partner, it's really hard to just turn it off and turn it on. And when you don't see your partner or your spouse for a long time, it's really hard to like, hey, let's just get naked. All right. So while that works a lot of times, I'll just be honest, you want to get naked? Sure, let's do it. There are times when you really need to stay connected, but you've got to stay connected emotionally in order to be able to do that. So let's talk about different forms of connection. Verbal connection. So in verbal connection, what I want you to think about is not a whole lot of like thank yous, or sometimes people like, oh, thank you for emptying the dishwasher. I mean, that's great, but I want you to think of their character. What does your partner do? What's your partner's character? So is it that they're really funny? Is it that they're lighthearted? Is it that you really love their integrity? You love their honesty? You love their heart and how kind they are. You love that they're giving. Dig into their character and find something specific that you can make a comment to in regard to their character. Try to catch them in the act. So instead of saying, hey, thank you for emptying the dishwasher, you might say, wow, thank you for thinking of me, and how I know how much you hate doing that, but I love that you decided to give that as a gift to me. I thank you for being so giving of that action. So I don't like that, so I'm going to back up. So think of a compliment. Think of a comment that you can give them in regard to their character. So it might be, thank you for being so honest with me in regard to not feeding the dog. I don't know. That'd be a bad sign, wasn't it? I fed the dog. No, I didn't. Let me do that again. So it could be, you know what? Thank you for, what could it be? Why am I struggling with this? I should not. I'm trying to think of a characteristic. So let's say the characteristic is kind, that you want to make sure that you notice kindness. And so the kindness might be, thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you kind of jumped to the door and held that door open for that woman. That is so kind of you to do that. And when you do that, it makes me feel really special that I'm with you. That can be a way of showing appreciation for their character. And by doing that, it's kind of like a nice little mental stroke, if you will. And so that emotional connection helps. So appreciate their character. Appreciation overall, as far as what they do, how they give, those kinds of things are really important. I don't know what I meant by appreciation. I appreciate character. What else do we appreciate? I'll just go for it. I'm out of sync now. Okay. So another type of verbal connection that you want to do is you want to just have appreciation for the little things. You want to find those small things that people do, that your partner does, that you can appreciate, and be specific. Once again, these comments are really important to be specific around the comment. So you don't want to say just like, thanks for helping out. You want to say, hey, thank you so much for running and stopping and getting milk. Oh my gosh, they gave me so much time. So be specific with any kind of appreciation that you have. Another type of verbal connection that helps to build the emotional connection between you in order to keep that sexual door open is going to be empathy. So don't try to fix things. Show empathy with your partner. So reflect the meaning, or not the meaning, reflect the feeling to your partner. You want to reflect if they're feeling frustrated or sad or excited. You don't want to talk about how to fix their problem or their solution. If you haven't watched the video, It's Not About the Nail, watch it on YouTube. You can Google it. Just say, It's Not About the Nail. It is probably 40 seconds or a minute long, and watch it together because it is awesome. And once you watch that, you could probably actually start a thing between the two of you and just say, It's not about the nail. And people will switch how they're responding. So just watch that. It's pretty funny. I show it in session all the time, and my couples are like, oh my gosh, this is so us. So the other thing I want you to work on appreciating is physical attraction. Some people are like, oh, I don't need that. And then other people I hear like, I never hear anything about how I look. And this isn't just about women. This is about men too. So it's important to show appreciation for your partner's physical appearance. So make sure you're doing that. And I don't care if you're rated G or if you're rated R. You can do whatever you want to do. It's between the two of you. Some people are comfortable with rated X appreciation and for their physical body. Some of you are not. And so make sure your partner knows what you appreciate, what you want to hear, and maybe share that with them, because you know what? Your guy might really appreciate you appreciating something in a way that maybe you're like, you want me to say what? But if that's what he's want, you do it. You show that. So talk about that a little bit, but you want to do it. Because remember, this is about being spicy. This is about keeping spice. So we can have like mild spice, or we can have like super hot, sexy spice. And so, we're going to do all of that, a little bit of each of that. So just keep that in mind. So how do you communicate this? Now, some of this is probably things that you know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So how do you communicate this appreciation or keep the verbal communication going? Sticky notes. I think sticky notes or notes are great. Hide them in places, stick them in sock drawers, put them on the underside of a toilet seat. I don't care. You put the notes wherever you can that your partner is going to see them. And, you don't have to go crazy with them. Maybe like one or two hidden places, and then when they find them, go put a couple more out. But this is important on both sides. And you can do those appreciations, or you can do the super sexy comments. Tell them what you want to do, or tell them what you're looking forward to. That's important that you keep the verbal, and I'm going to do the written with the verbal. It's important that you keep that verbal expression going. So not just appreciate, so you have the appreciation of their character, the physical attraction of the things that are going on, but there's nothing wrong with writing a little sexy love note. So that's fine. I have actually had people that have taken whiteboard markers and written on their mirrors. So that's a thing that you can do too. There's also, I know I saw on Pinterest where somebody put a frame. They had a frame and they decorated it with like a white cardstock in the middle of it, and every day they would change what the comment was on the glass. And so that would be another way to communicate. Maybe you could, depending upon the rated G versus rated R or rated X, whatever, you can put it in the bedroom, or you could put it on the counter. So, it's a nice thing that if your kids are seeing that, then it's nice. Then they get to learn, this is how you show love. So, text messages. Of course, if your spouse's phone is paid by the department, you want to be careful about this, because some of this can be public record. So a long time ago, I might have even shared this story before, a long time ago, my husband used to have a pager. And so I used to send him sexy pages over his pager. And I don't think that they could have pulled those records, but he had his pager. It's a pager. So I figured out how to go online and type in a page message, and I would send kind of nasty things over the pager. And so he'd be like in the middle of a call, and he would get the page, and he'd like look at his pager and like try not to laugh on a scene or try not to react. But every now and then I would get him, and he'd be on a scene, and like whoever he was with was like, "What's up?" He's like, "Nothing." No, like something happened. He's like, no, nothing. And he'd like put his pager back in his, I guess, in the holder real quick. But anyway, so if it is paid by the department, be careful, because all of that is public record. My husband's phone is now paid for by the department, so there are no pictures that go back and forth, and there are no sexy text messages anymore. So we find other ways, but be careful about that. Oh, and once again, I think you know this. Anything that you take a picture of and goes into cyberspace, who knows? So, keep in mind that you don't want that to reflect on the department and things like that. So do it in a safe environment, but, be playful, have fun, maybe not send the photos. So another way of doing that is cards. Cards you make, or if you want to buy cards, cards are really sweet. You can send cards in the mail, which I know sounds random, but how cool is it if your partner got a card on their desk at work? It's just kind of cool. I think I'd like it. You can send one to me, honey. Videos, obviously videos. I always feel old when I say this for some reason. I know there are so many different ways to send videos now. My business partner is all over this Marco Polo thing, and I'm just like, dang, that's like one more communication thing I have to keep up with, so I'm resisting it. I think it's super fun to send the videos, especially to your spouse. You'd probably be okay with that kind of a video, but that's probably a really fun way to do it. So videos are a great way to communicate as well. You know this. I mean, come on, I'm doing a video right now, so hello. All right, so part 2. So first we had the verbal connection. The next thing I want you to do is think about doing meaningful things. Laundry is sexy. And you know who I'm talking to, because if you do the laundry all the time, it's like, but if you have a spouse that does your laundry for you, you're like, oh man, you just turned me on because you just did all the laundry. It is amazing. People don't realize, sometimes our partners don't realize this. Many years ago, my husband would do the laundry and leave it in the dryer. And I would get so frustrated because it was in the dryer. And I said, oh my gosh, if you're gonna do the laundry and leave it in the dryer, then just don't do it. And he could have totally taken that as an out. And I know many people that have. But instead he didn't. He's like, what? I'm like, well, the crappy part, I'm editing my language, the crappy part of this is that I have to fold it. I hate folding it and hanging it up. I don't mind putting the washer and sticking it in the dryer. That's the easy part. So when he folds the laundry, I haven't gotten him to put it away all the time. He puts his own laundry away, but he won't put mine away. I don't know why. He knows where my underwear goes. But you know what? He still folded the laundry. And that gets all kinds of bonus points in my book. It's pretty wonderful. When I come home and he's there and he's cooking, and he has a glass of wine for me when I get home, and I'm like, do you need some help in the kitchen? Nope, just sit down. Oh, bonus points. If you have kids and you're like, I gotta put the kids to bed, and your partner gets up and says, oh, I'll take care of it for you, honey. What? Bonus points. So those acts of service are so awesome. So do meaningful things. It is amazing how that is such a turn on. Okay, so keep that in mind. Quality time, I've talked about rituals in the past. Rituals of connections are really important. That can lead to quality time. So think about creating some kind of quality time or quality conversation. in order when you do have time together. Or, it doesn't even have to be like your face to face. It can be your good night ritual, something that you do, or your good morning ritual, depending upon shift work. So those rituals and the quality time is important. All right. Here's what all my guys have been waiting for, I think, which is the physical connection. Because, we got to keep it spicy here. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is a 5-second kiss at least twice a day. If you see your person twice a day, if you see your partner twice a day, sometimes you're not going to. Sometimes they're in bed and you're not going to kiss them for 5 seconds while they're asleep, because you're going to wake them up and they might like smack you because they think something's going on. So there you go. So if you can do a 5-second kiss, no, it doesn't need to have a lot of tongue. It doesn't need to be wet. Just make it a meaningful embrace and a kiss for 5 seconds. That is awesome. It's kind of funny though, because initially when I started this in my relationship, my husband was like, I said, we have to kiss for 5 seconds. And he's like, what? And I'm like, really? 5 seconds? That's hard? And he's like, oh, fine. So we kiss, and he was like, oh God, I thought I was never going to get over. I'm like, you're kissing me. Come on. He's like, yeah, but I got stuff to do. I don't know if you have someone like that, but that's mine. I got stuff to do. I'm like, there's nothing more important than kissing me right now. So there you go. So 5-second kiss twice a day. The second thing, as far as physical connection, I'm going to say touch, 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 and more touch. Touch can be anything. It can be, rubbing somebody's arm. It can be a back scratch. It can just be touching their face. It can be a butt smack. It could be whatever you want. Be careful, guys. Be careful. Sometimes your spouses, your wives, don't want their boobs grabbed. So you need to ask, like, personally, I'm like, that is not something that's going to be a physical turn on. I'm not going to be like, hey, you know what, that's great that you like them, but, we don't always like it as women. So you might want to ask before that's like your go-to. So check that out. But physical touch is just about a touch. Honestly, one of my favorite things, and this is going to be dorky, but one of my favorite things is going to the grocery store with my husband, because he almost always winds up like rubbing my shoulders or putting his hands around my waist, or, giving me a butt smack or giving me a kiss. I don't know why, but that's what happens at the grocery store for us. So, if you see us at Kroger, you might want to avoid that aisle we're in. But that is something that's meaningful. Like, it's just touch. So that's really important. Just doing it at random times. It doesn't need to be like, oh, there's this moment and I'm going to touch her. No, just random moments of time that, like, what was that? She's cooking. Hey, honey, scratch her back. Whatever, going on. He's cooking. Grab his butt. I don't know. Touch is so important, because you've got to keep that kind of free-flowing energy between the two of you. But this is really important. Touch does not equal sex. Many times in relationships, what's happened, and I see this in my office, that people come in, and what winds up happening is it's like, well, I don't want to have sex, because every time he touches me, I'm like, stop touching me because you want to have sex. So that's why it's so important to touch a lot. So it's like, oh, he touched me. Okay, cool. That's fine. Or she touched me. That's cool. You don't want it to be, they're touching me. They want to go to bed. So you don't want that. So if that's what's going on in your relationship right now, touch, 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 random touch, and just keep doing it until it doesn't mean that it has to equal going to bed. You've got to have that. Okay, this is the last one. Planning sex. People argue with me about this all the time. And here's my argument and philosophy on this. When you were dating, most of the time, what happened was, I know things are different now, like people talk and then they like maybe don't date and they just sleep together. But we're talking about, like, if you're dating, most of the time you dated, you thought about, oh, we're going on a date tonight. I wonder what I'm going to wear. Am I going to, do these jeans look hot on me? Is she going to like these? This top makes me look curvy and good. I think he's going to like this. I'm going to do my hair this way. Like, there's a lot of mental preparation that goes into that date. And so when you're actually on the date, then you're like, oh, we're here, it's good. But you have been mentally preparing yourself all day for this date. And when you do that, your brain is gearing up. It's gearing up and it's thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a good night. All right, it's going to get hot. I can't wait to kiss him or hold her hand or do, that kind of stuff. And so your brain is thinking about it. Now, I know there's that whole thing where guys think about sex like once every 5 seconds, which I don't know I don't think that's true, but, or whatever it is, whatever that statistic is. But the thing is that as you go on in your marriage, you're not like, man, I can't wait to see her tonight. She's going to look hot. You're thinking, oh, I got to go home. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to eat dinner. I got to clean my gun. Or you're thinking, oh, I got the kids at home. What am I going to make for dinner? It's that kind of stuff. And so there's not that mental preparation. So I don't care if one of you plans it, one plans it one time and one plans it the other time. If you know that there's the potential for that, or if you know that there's a date night and hey, this might be a good time, you've got to think that way. Honestly, the more you think about, man, I can't wait to see my spouse, my partner, the more emotionally connected you're going to be with that person already, because you're going to be excited to see them. And so some of that sexual energy is going to be moving and flowing already. So I hope that makes sense. People argue with me about planning sex all the time, but in all honesty, it's kind of that thing of like, if it doesn't get on the calendar, it doesn't get done. And there's nothing worse, I think, than being like somebody's tired and wants to go to bed and the other person's all geared up. And then like you either have one person that's resentful for not having sex, or you have one person resentful because they wanted to go to bed. So, hey, maybe doing it at bedtime is not the best time to do it. That's a conversation to have. When do you both enjoy having sex? When are you up and raring to go? What's available on your calendar? And that's where it's like, hey, where do our calendars match up, and when's going to be a good time for us to kind of put some energy into it? Quickies are good, but longer's better too. I shouldn't say better. Longer's good. So there you go. So making time for sex and how to do it. So here's the other thing that I always think about is, well, not always think about. I'm going to take that out. So another part of planning sex is that you've got to plan to maybe stay in or plan a date with yourself. And just because you have a date doesn't mean you need to go out. I was actually on one of the Facebook groups, I think, or maybe somebody put a post up. I think somebody put a post up in regard to why LEO couples don't like to go out. And I wrote back and I said, yeah, I like to cocoon at home because, I'm out and about. Well, that's fine, but I don't know about your LEO, but mine doesn't like crowds that much. And I deal with people, he deals with people. So like not dealing with people is a good day for us. So sometimes it's just nice to stay home and be with each other. I know it is really important to have friends and to go out with your friends, but planning a time just for the two of you, and if that means staying at home and doing it, do it. And you can plan a date. Sometimes I have couples and they're like, I need a babysitter. Okay, you know what? You got to get a babysitter? Go to a hotel room. It doesn't matter, okay, it sounds shady, right? Like hourly rates. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, sometimes, there are go on a Groupon. You can get a decent hotel room. And sometimes a decent hotel room is as much as a night out for a dinner. So, hey, think of it as going out, bring a pizza in. You think of it as going out to a semi-nice restaurant and just be in the hotel room. Hey, why not? It's fun. It's kind of like, hey, want to come up to my room, little lady? It's kind of, you can, heck, you can dress up even. You can make up whatever you want. And the last thing I want to say about this, I know sometimes people feel guilty for locking the door. There is stop guilting yourself for locking the bedroom door. There is nothing wrong with your kids being a little upset for a while in the morning, if you need to do that, or hey, at night, if the bedroom's door is locked for a while, it's great for them to understand mommy and daddies need to have time to themselves, and that's okay. If chaos ensues, I'm sorry. Unlock the door. But until then, try doing that a little bit. Try having some privacy time. I run into a lot of people that are just so scared to lock the door and or have babysitters. And I get it because, being in this profession, in this industry, you hear about all the horrible people that harm your children. But we're going to have a whole nother podcast on that one. So to keep it spicy, just as a recap, remember that you need to keep up the verbal connection. Remember to kind of have some diversity on how you communicate that. Do meaningful things with each other, have some rituals, and have lots of physical connection, lots of physical touch. That's really important. Make time for sex. Plan it. Not Planet. Planet. Anyway, so yes, make time for sex, put it in your calendar. It's really important to keep it up. It's hard as being in this profession and keeping that sexual energy. So until then, keep it code 4.